The first American building to be completely covered of glass is completed in Toledo, Ohio. The construction of the Hoover Dam is also completed, and a record heat wave strikes North America. Record high temperatures are set and thousands die. The year is 1936, and this was the second year of Packard's successful junior series, the 120. But before getting into all of it, I'm your host, Jay. Welcome to What It's Like, the automotive channel that does mini documentaries of your favorite cars, history, specs, designs. At the end of each video, we do a slow walk around, which really helps those putting these back together to see where trim pieces go and how it looks. Engine episodes sprinkled in. If any of that sounds of interest to you, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. 1936 Packard model lineup was broken down into Junior Series and Senior Series. The Junior Series was the 120. The Senior Series could be broken down into the 8, Super 8s, and 12. Packard would offer the 120 from 1935 through 1937, 1939 through 1942, 1938. Packard named the 120 the 8, and then they went back to the 120 in 1939. Packard had a weird way of naming things, I know. Anyway, offered in two generations, 1936 falls in the first generation, which was produced 1935, 36, and 37. The 1937 Packard 120 could be had in body styles such as, but not limited to, two-door coupe, two-door convertible coupe, two-door sports coupe, four-door sedan, two-door business coupe, and four-door touring sedan. Packard would stroke their 256 in line 8, 4.5 inches, bringing overall displacement to 282 cubic inch displacement. The engine was good for 120 horsepower, riding on a wheelbase of 120-inch wheelbase. The model was called the 120, and it was this trifecta effect around 120. Interesting side note, hydraulic brakes were standard on the 120, which was the junior model, but hydraulic brakes wouldn't become standard on senior models until 1937, which is super interesting that Packard did that. And it's also important to note that when the 120 debuted 1 year prior, hydraulic brakes were also standard on the 1935 model as well. Let's talk specs. It rides a wheelbase of 120 inches. It weighs around 3,500 pounds. Price, $1,115, which would be equivalent to you spending $25,482.24 in the year 2025. Total 1936 Packard production was 61,027 units. Of that number, 55,042 of them were the 120 variety, which means 5,985 were the Senior Series Packards. I'm talking 8, Super 8, and 12. Ouch. Moving on to engine. Only one engine on offer for this car. 282 cubic inch displacement flathead inline 8. 4.6 liters. It was good for 120 horsepower, 3,800 RPM, 225 pound-feet, or 305 Newton meters at 2,000 RPM with a bore of 3.25 inches and a stroke of 4.5 inches. Compression could either be 6.5 or an optional 7 to 1. 5 main bearings. Theoretical top speed of 85 miles per hour. 0 to 60 could be had in about 19.9 seconds. If you've been looking for a 1936 Packard 120 four-door touring sedan, I know a place where one is actually our featured car is currently for sale at Classic Auto Mall, Morgantown, Pennsylvania, where they got this car and at least 1,000 other cars currently for sale when recording this episode. Anybody could go peruse their inventory at their showroom in Morgantown. For hours of operation, directions, and to get the full scoop on this car, be sure to click the link below after the show. So check out these wheels. It's on bias tires 7-16. Packard Motor Company with the cascading lines. The bumpers have this painted channel in the center. This one's got accessory lights I'm assuming that those are turn signals, indicators. Aftermarket they look like. Notice the fenders have this small crease. You got these bead bars coming up to the headlight buckets. Check out this grille profile. It comes to a peak here. Down here is just a metal piece that simulates radiator vanes. It gets wider as it goes up. Headlight buckets are painted with a bright bezel in the front. There is also a spine that runs the whole length of the bucket. Beautiful mascot, donut pusher. That's on this nice pedestal pad. There is a bright piece that goes all the way back towards the single piece windshield with windshield wipers that oppose. Just notice the side vents. There isn't hardly any trim or any trim at all, but there is red pinstriping up here. It does have a cowl vent. The windshield wipers are petite and they rest at the bottom of the windshield. Side mirror is mounted to the door. Fender profile as it comes down into the running board. Rear fenders are just kind of rolled. Gas filler is on the driver's side. Check out how these fenders come back. The rear bumper mimics the front bumper, except for the Packard script that's stamped. This one has 2 brake lights. Also, take a gander at how these brake lights are mounted. This one has a 2-tier trunk. This part here slides out like a drawer, and that has the spare tire in it. This part up here opens. And that is your trunk area. It's big, but it's shallow. This is something I always like pointing out. When you open a Packard door, the door tilts out at you. Down here, it's closer to the body than it is up here. See how far away that is? Let me back up so you can see it. It's just so elegant. Door panel doesn't have an armrest. Does have, this is a door handle to get out. Window crank for the big window. Window crank for the vent window. Just take a look at this interior. Coming down inside the pedal box down here, you have the high beam switch on the floor, where it should be in my opinion. Clutch, brake, gas pedal. This is the hand brake and or parking brake. Just check out the attention to detail. Packard, nice block formation there with this checker design. Here's what over the hood looks like. Here's what first person over the hood would look like. Up above, there's sun visors. They're very nicely done. Here's my hand for reference. Put the other sun visor down. It does not interfere with the rear view mirror. The rear view is very petite. This one has a heater down below. Just check that out. Also check out ashtray here. Cigarette lighter here. And another ashtray here on the glove box door itself. On to the glove box test. Here is our test subject. Here is my hand for reference. Here is the glove box in question. I'm afraid it's going to get stuck. If that ashtray wasn't in the way. Then it could possibly fit, but I absolutely love this dashboard. It looks awesome. On to the button switches and knobs. Starting on the left hand, moving right, gasoline gauge, coolant temperature. There is an aftermarket Bosch coolant temperature gauge at the base of the dashboard itself as well. 120 mile per hour speedometer with odometer, amp meter, oil pressure, headlights, hand throttle, lighter, ashtray, and clock. The rear door opens up almost 90 degrees to allow plenty of access into the rear compartment. There isn't an armrest here, door handle to get out, window crank for the big window. This one has footrest at the bottom. Notice there is not a transmission tunnel. There is a robe rail on the back of the seat for a heavy blanket. Just take a look at this back seat. Here is what the front looks like from the back. Let's take a quick gander at the greenhouse or the pillar to glass ratio, which is kind of cozy in here, but I think that's what this car is for. Single piece back glass, and this is what the visibility looks like out the back from the back seat. It's all back seat, but it acts like a giant shelf. There isn't any armrests on the door panel itself, but there are armrests on the bench itself back here. Vent windows open in the back. These quarter windows do. The windows go down. There is a light switch for the recessed dome light in the center. And that's how the vent windows open, just like that. Let's talk about seat back profile. It is comfortable. This is like the perfect seat. The seat bench itself is rather wide. I believe that this interior has been redone. The seats are superb. They're very soft. Very, very soft seats. I'm 6'2". I got tons of knee space. This car would be absolutely epic for a family. Like I said, that dashboard's like one of my favorite Junior Series Packard dashboards. It's absolutely nice. It's very quaint. Taking a real quick gander under the hood sits the 282 cubic inch displacement inline 8 nestled under the hood. Horns are mounted to the firewall. Coil is mounted just to the driver's side of the engine block. Notice the distributor coming out at an angle about midway. Single downdraft carburetor, intake, and exhaust is all on one side, the passenger side. On the positive side, cheap elegance, tons of space throughout, awesome dashboard, huge glove box despite the camera not fitting inside the glove box because of the whole ashtray situation. Epic over-the-hood view, parts, and club support available for this car. Against it, it will always be an eyesore for the prestigious Packard buyer. As in, it will always be the cheap Packard. All right, Now it's time for Would You Rather, two scenarios today. In the first scenario, would you rather have a 1936 LaSalle or 1936 Packard 120 or 1936 Lincoln Zephyr? I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. On to the second scenario, a bit outside the box, but which one would you rather have? 1936 Auburn non-supercharged 8 or 1936 Packard 120 or 1935 Hupmobile? Once again, going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Now it's time for Name That Tune. First person to get both the name of the band and the song title correctly in the comment section will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. What car would you like to see featured on this channel this year? In the comment section below. Until next time, toodaloo! Welcome to the after show. This part of the video doesn't have any sound or commentary, but you can see this car, all of the trim pieces, all of the design and detail like you've never saw it before. Enjoy.